Hello! This mini-series looks at academic virtues, to recall what's important in science and academia, what to strive for yourself and what to look for in others. Today's virtue is honesty. Honesty is probably the most important trait or virtue to have as a scientist, because without honesty, you got nothing. The entire science system of theses, degrees, peer review, promotion, and evaluation is all based on the implicit assumption of honesty. And when honesty is in question, it is extremely hard to recover ever from such a suspicion. Unfortunately, there is dishonesty damaging all of science. And if you need any examples of that, you can go and follow Elisabeth Bick on Twitter, or you can go to retractionwatch.com and look at sort of the list of papers that have been retracted for and for what reasons. The examples are plenty. When it happens in your lab, it is a very draining experience. I've had one experience about 10 years back where a person was unable to show pictures of experiments that they took and could not produce the physical samples from the experiment, and then also the Excel spreadsheet was lost. And so in the end, there is a completely written manuscript on my hard drive and has been sitting there for 10 years, and it will never be submitted because there's basically sufficient suspicion to suspect that this was not done right. That is just a drain on energy and is terrible to deal with, basically. This is outright fraud, but there's sort of there's many different shades of gray, you know. I mean, you can ask yourself, when you were a reviewer of a paper, reviewer of a grant proposal, did you actively forget what you were reading in this privileged communication of, say, a grant proposal or a paper that you reviewed? I mean, nobody is perfect. You can not make things unknown to you when you have just heard it. Or have you really been careful to not take text passages from a text that you particularly liked without putting it in quotation marks? I mean, this should not happen. Have you been careful to have basically a well-documented path of your data from lab notebooks to taking pictures or little movies of your experiment? I think we can all do better to document sort of the process of science and to be careful. I think honesty is the most important trait of anybody doing science. Now, what are some of the things that you can do? One, call out clearly when you see problems. For example, in manuscripts that you're writing with somebody, if there's plagiarized text, then just call it out, say, this is plagiarized text, please correct these errors. This is academic misconduct and non-acceptable. I've done it on several occasions, and I think it never fails to have an effect. Also regularly discuss this in lab meetings as a problem that occurs, and it may also be an idea to mention it in some of the courses that you teach. I do. Another approach is to document as best as you can experiments. From the beginning to the end, take pictures, take little movies, take notes, and in the end is also good for outreach. Propagate open science as much as you can, and I think we can all learn more about that. Create a culture in your group where non-significant results are fine. I mean, they're difficult to deal with, but if people feel that this is accepted, and if you work with your co-workers to look at different angles of the data, if it still wouldn't tell an interesting story, then I think it becomes more accepted, and the pressure to sort of have these significant results is somewhat decreased. And of course, check yourself. Am I doing the best that I can? Am I being as clean as possible? And I think this is very important. Start with yourself. And that's what I wanted to say about honesty.